Let's talk Merrimack. Welcome to the debut of a new show where we talk about Merrimack. I'm your referee host, Mary Beth Raven. I've lived with my husband here in Merrimack for 34 years, and I've raised my two now grown children in this town. The goal of this show is to talk about things that concern Merrimack residents and to encourage you to get involved in the town. Today's show focuses on some facts about Merrimack. Future topics will depend on what residents like you want to talk about and maybe current events. And today I'm here with my two fellow residents, Ashley DePro and John Kauser. Ashley, start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I've lived in Merrimack for about 7.5 years now. I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, joined the military right at 19. Mostly was stationed around the South. Met my husband while I was in the military, and once we were both out, we decided just that we wanted to move back to New England, and we just randomly picked Merrimack, and we've been here ever since. And I have 3 kids, ages 3, 6, and 9, and 2 huskies, and a tank full of fish. And then I also am the proud owner of 5 jumping spiders, which I will bring on the show at one point. I will sneak them in. I currently work in the tech industry as a software engineering manager, and in my free time, I don't really have that much free time, but I enjoy reading, being outside, all that kind of, typical New Hampshire stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your service, Ashley. Now, what about you, Jonathan?
I've been living in Merrimack since 2013.
Okay.
Came here. My wife is the director of the Merrimack Public Library, so that's how we wound up here. I'd grown up in New Hampshire, up in Concord, but between then and 2013 moved around the country for work and for school. Was in New York for a while and Indiana before we came back. Have 4 children, of whom the youngest just turned 18 yesterday, the day of our filming here, so no longer a parent of minors, although we still have, they're always your children. And I have a degree in medieval history, and I teach history up at Plymouth State. So a bit of a commute, but love going up there, love the students up there, and yeah. I guess
Well,
that's me.
terrific. Well, thank you. Speaking of history then, John, is there anything about Merrimack maybe that sets it apart or represents New Hampshire's core values, or anything that you'd like to share with us about Merrimack and its history?
Historians will always get squeamish about talking values because we always worry about bringing some of them there. But there are some interesting things, both kind of typical of New Hampshire and also distinct. One is that as I was researching local history, my own field's Europe, but researching our local history some, we almost didn't become part of New Hampshire at all, which was interesting. Back when King Charles I was issuing the Massachusetts Bay Colony its charter, he said they could have everything up to 3 miles north of the Merrimack River, which made sense if you're down at the coast where the Merrimack River runs west to east. At the time, they didn't know that when you get inland to where Chelmsford is now, it's running north to south. So there was a huge lawsuit going to London, going to the King's Court between the New Hampshire people and the Massachusetts people over which side of the river is north. And the Massachusetts people said, well, that's the left bank. And if they had gotten their way, then Nashua and Merrimack and Manchester and Concord would all be part of the state of Massachusetts now. But the New Hampshire people won the day, which was north means north. And once the river no longer has a north side, you should just continue the state line, what's now the state line, running west. So that's sort of an odd thing. We were going to be part of the town of Dunbarton down in Massachusetts originally. They had this gigantic grant over that. So that's sort of, luckily, I'm going to say, luckily we wound up as part of the state of New Hampshire and not Massachusetts. So we could drive properly. Another thing about it is very soon after that got settled, that lawsuit in 1741, the people of Merrimack applied to become a town and to have self-governance. And what's interesting to me at that point is, unlike a lot of other colonial towns, there was no town center. There's no town green. There's no, to this day, we don't really have a very focused downtown here. And that's because you really had these 4 separate farming villages along the river and a bit away from it. But they really wanted to be self-governing rather than to be under, an outside governing authority. And if I do want to stray a little bit outside my historian bubble to talk the values, I think there is something very New Hampshire about that. In the legacy, New Hampshire people like to have responsibility for their own local governance. I think that's particularly strong of a sentiment here. And you can see that right back to the sort of 4 separate villages all wanting to, determine their own affairs. So that's a key thing. And the other thing I noticed, I'd always assumed before I started looking into this that this had kind of been a farming village and originally started as that, but was really quick to modernize and sort of develop new industries and new entrepreneurship was going on here. I found a list. I'm going to need my glasses to read it because I didn't memorize it. When we first incorporated, there were only 50 families in the town. That's all across all 4 villages. They were tiny. By 1820, you had the meeting house, 9 school districts and schoolhouses, 5 taverns, 5 stores, 8 sawmills, 5 grain mills, 2 clothing mills, carting machines, and 2 tanneries. And I also, besides that, found references to a big brick making industry, supplying all the factories going up in Lowell and places like that. So really, from quite early on, even though you don't have that kind of mill town center like some New Hampshire towns do, like Dover or Manchester, there really was a lot of interest in modernizing and industrializing and sort of the real entrepreneurial kind of spirit. I think has been part of the town from very early on.
9 schools. I think that speaks to the value that Merrimack puts on education.
Yeah, it had our own teaching college for a while.
Oh, wow.
Actually,
Really
it just got a 3-year normal school here, which is the same thing that the one up at Plymouth grew into Plymouth State University. This one here, did not continue as one. But,
oh, well, yeah. Wow, well, you've given us a bunch of things to think about how historically Merrimack has been set apart or what's a little bit unique about it. So, Ashley, do you have any comments on, what for you is unique about Merrimack?
Well, if I'll be honest, we kind of picked New Hampshire because being from Arkansas, we were like, oh, that's, the south of New England.
The south of the north.
Even though sometimes people may say it with a negative tone, I kind of consider it a positive attribute. But one thing that surprised me is how quickly I felt at home once we moved here, because moved around a lot with the military, and then we've met so many great people here. We have a village. I consider my neighborhood to be like family. Everybody that I've talked to, on the Facebook groups, out in town, everybody likes to be independent and take care of themselves, but it's also very common to see everybody helping out anyone who needs help. And also, it's just beautiful outside. It's easy to get out into nature. My father-in-law always comes up here and just comments on the trees. He's like, oh my gosh, the trees are amazing. And, comments like that really make you appreciate what you get to live in.
Yes. And interestingly, Merrimack is one of the fastest growing towns in the state of New Hampshire. It saw a population increase of almost 9%. And we added about 2,400 people between 2020 and 2023. And New Hampshire as a whole has a pretty small population compared to most of the other states. So this growth rate is pretty fast. And there's lots of other interesting facts about our town. The growth rate is particularly interesting, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was interested about doing this show, because every time we've got more people moving into a community, we need to reassess what is our community and who is our community, and we need to absorb these community, help them to feel a part of the community. And so that's a challenge that we may have here in Merrimack that some of the other towns in New Hampshire don't have because we're growing so quickly. But anyway, I have a bunch of trivia questions about Merrimack, so I would like to play this trivia game with you. And I would invite you guys to play along at home or on your phone if you're listening. So I have Merrimack trivia questions. And what I'm going to do is get your glasses out of the way. I'm going to ask the question. And instead of, we thought writing them down might take too much time. So we're just going to, whoever has the answer first is going to slap that easy button. And whoever I think answered it first or slapped the button first, I'm going to, let you answer. And then we'll see if you got the answer correct. So the first one is, what is the population of Merrimack? Okay.
Wait. Oh.
That was easy.
All right, Ashley, what do you think?
28,597.
Not quite. Very close, though. Very, very close. I'll give you another guess.
I'm not going to get any closer. I was going to say 28,000, but I couldn't do the exact.
Okay, well, maybe I'm being too much of a stickler as the referee, but it was 28,916. So you were really close, really close. Okay, that was, so almost 29, 28,916 as of the 2023 census. So really good job, really close. And so the next question is, what is the average age of a Merrimack resident? Okay.
That was easy.
You're a little slow there, Mr. Easy Button, but go ahead. Scott.
41?
Yes, 41.6. So we're not going to round up on you. I won't blow the whistle on you for that, but 41.6. All right. So Merrimack is the X largest community in the state. Like, where is its ranking? Is it the top? Is it the bottom? What do you think?
That was easy.
4th?
Almost. A little bit. I don't know. How would you say, higher or lower? It's
Lower in the rank. 8th?
yes, eighth. So it's the 8th largest one in the state, which is pretty big because, I think of cities, right? Concord, Merrimack, Concord, Manchester, Nashua, whatever. But we are one of the, 8 is pretty big. So we have a pretty big influence on the rest of the state, I would think, because of that size. So I don't know if this would be cheating because you just gave us all sorts of history, John, but how old is the town of Merrimack officially?
Oh, that's too much math for me.
In count of years?
In count of years. Or if you want to give me the year that it was chartered. I think you already mentioned that, didn't you?
I did not, but do you know it?
You could give me either one.
I'm going to guess.
Okay,
That was easy.
1796.
pretty close. Pretty close. It's a little older than that.
1769.
Keep going.
1754.
Closer. You're getting warmer.
1748.
1746. Really close.
Actually, it kind of split the difference because the original charter was 1746, but that wasn't the whole town. They added a northern slice of it a couple of years later. So 1750
okay.
was the town as it is got 1750.
All right.
But not fair for...
Yeah. So the first people started settling here even early, 1720. And according to our research, the very first log cabin was built here in 1665. And of course, I also feel that we must recognize that there were native peoples here before that we should recognize.
It's interesting relative to that. The Boy Scouts in New Hampshire, or Scouting now, is the Passaconaway body. Passaconaway was a native leader. And actually, I think one of our first documents involving the land that's now Merrimack was a grant to him of land along the river and an island in the middle of it, which I think is the island right like behind Tractor Supply, like the river,
yep.
right about even with that. I think that was actually this, he was a very big deal for the New England natives, and he was actually his favorite residence. He moved around. Obviously they were semi-nomadic, but moved around. But his favorite residence and the place that the royal government gave him a charter to was in Merrimack.
Interesting. All right. So, John, you mentioned that there were originally 4 towns, but can either of you name those 4 towns?
Okay.
That was easy.
Thornton's Ferry,
Yep.
Reed's Ferry,
Yep.
South Merrimack,
Yep.
and the 4th I think went by Sauhegan.
Yes, Sauhegan Village. Excellent. Good job. All right, I was supposed to be keeping score, but I got so into it that I haven't been keeping score, and that's okay because we're all winners in this case because we're all learning a little bit about history of Merrimack. So it's got loads of history, and of course you can always go on to the Merrimack Historical website to learn a lot more. But I'm going to move on to a new topic about who represents the town. What are some aspects of town and local elected officials? So this first question is, how many people are on the Merrimack Town Council?
That was
7.
easy.
7, yes. I'm not going to ask you to name them unless you want to volunteer to do that.
Nope.
Okay. Also, you can go on the town website, and there's a lovely picture of all 7 of them and list them, and I found that as part of my research for the show. And we do want to thank them for their service to the town. So moving on beyond the town council, how many people are on the school board?
I should have got that.
That was easy.
I believe it's 5, but there's also a student observer.
Yeah,
which would make 6.
Right, so there are 5 elected folks who can vote, and then there's a student who attends the meetings and has input, so that's great. Now, I hope everybody knows the answer to this, but just in case, what is the Merrimack Village District? Yeah.
That was easy.
Our town water.
Yes. Everybody calls it the MVD, and I'm like, the district of what? But the official name is actually District Waterworks.
Most valuable drinking.
Yes, yes.
There's more than one
Of
way
water.
to take that.
Of water.
Yes. Drinking water, Waterworks. But the official name is Merrimack Village District Waterworks. And how many people are on that Board of Commissioners?
Do you want to take a guess?
I'll guess
That was
6.
easy.
Close, 5. 5. All right. And we thank all of them for their service too. So we have a lot of people who are active citizens in town serving on the school board, the town council, the MVD. And then the next one I want to move to is state representatives. Those are the people who go from Merrimack to represent the town up at the Concord State House. How many state reps do we have? Woohoo.
That was easy.
8. Yes, we do. So the next question is, when do voters vote for who is their state rep? Like what month of the year?
Go. You're reaching. Go.
I'm too
That was
competitive.
easy.
November.
Yes, November, right? Right. So for the state and national offices, right, like state rep, state senator, governor, executive council, and of course, most of us think of the November election every 4 years also as a presidential election. Those are all in November. But if you are running for school board or town council, what month of the year is that election? Oh, you guys are
That
too
was
good at
easy.
taking turns. This is a competition.
no.
April.
April, yes, that is in April. Oh, and that includes if you're running for the commission on the Merrimack Village District as well, right?
And the
So
school budget committee.
and the school budget committee, yes, that's not
here.
in my notes. School budget committee, that's correct. So November is for things like state rep, state senator, governor, but April is for more town things like school board, town council, budget committee, Merrimack Village District, et cetera. You might know this, so maybe a little unfair question. So moving along a little bit back to history, at one time Merrimack had several train stations. What was the maximum number of stops that were in Merrimack?
Is it unfair for me to ring in?
I don't know. Well,
That was easy.
4.
okay, 4. How many are there now?
0.
I believe
That
the
was
answer
easy.
is 0, but I'm not entirely
There
sure.
are
So
no
if there
stops, but
anybody-
I think the building is still there from one of them.
If
Yeah.
there were train stops, my kids would know about it. And then
Because they're big train fans? Yeah, okay. I was thinking if there were, well, there may be freight train stops that I'm unaware of. But when I was looking for a job, I was interviewing in Boston, and there's definitely no train stop in Merrimack to go to Boston. And so at least, that kind of thing. All right, so that's the end of today's trivia quiz. And I forgot to keep score, but like I said, we're all winners here, so that's great. Now, for you viewers, even if you didn't get all the questions right playing along at home, don't worry. You can go to the Merrimack town website. And I also wanted to tell you about some great opportunities for you to get involved in town. There are several town committees that need your help. Here are just a few. Parks and Rec is looking for people. Planning Board, Town Center Committee, even though officially we don't have a center of town, we have a Town Center Committee. And the Heritage Commission and Conservation Commission are all looking for people to get involved in town. So thank you very much for tuning in to our first episode of Let's Talk Merrimack, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
bye.
Okay.